Today we're going to be talking about the most fundamental stuff in Stoic philosophy, the core to the principles that the Stoics talked about 2,000 years ago. And we're going to apply this to addiction so that you can stay sober for the long run, so you can get sober and stay sober. So once again, we're going to be talking about the things that are internal to us and the things that are external to us, because that's fundamental and super important for all of Stoicism, and we can build up from there, but this is the foundation of all of it. The stuff that is inside of you, what we call your internalities, that is the most important thing that you possess. You actually have possession of what's inside of you. No one can reach into your brain and change your thinking or your motivations or your spirit. No one can change how you decide and how you choose to handle the struggles and the situations that you encounter in life. Only you have control over those things, which means that you possess those things and nobody else does. And the things that are inside of you are absolutely the most important things. They include your virtues, your vices, and your general judgments about things, your opinions that you've developed through wisdom over time. And as an addict, you've developed a lot of internal opinions about things that were created either when you were an immature human being, or during the times of your addiction. And let's face it, a lot of what you believe is wrong. And a lot of what most people believe is wrong. Because if you look at the average people, if you take two random people out there and you ask them questions about what they believe about things, they're not going to say the same things. And it's not that one is right and the other one's wrong. It's probably that they're both wrong, frankly. But the point is that everybody's got these different opinions and belief systems, and what you've developed over time as an addict and from an early age, a lot of that needs fixing. And Stoicism helps us understand the truth about reality. And it starts with understanding that the only thing you possess is the things that are inside of you. And those are also the only things that you control, and no one else can touch those things. And the only harm that you could ever experience in life is if you are internally harmed. Because if you're internally harmed, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. That is something that you actually deserve to feel shameful about. Nothing is worse than being harmed inside yourself. So the key is to not let anything that's external to you, that's outside of you, ever be allowed to harm you internally. Now, drugs, they can do that. Other externalities, they really can't. If you have a tyrant or somebody puts you in a jail cell, those things don't actually harm you internally. You can keep calm, you can make correct choices while you're in that cell, while you're chained to a wall. No one can change that. But drugs are something that's external, but affect you internally. So that is why they are so terrible for you, because they are one of those things that can actually corrupt you from inside. And that's because of the dependency they create from the neurotransmitters that are fallen out of balance inside of you. You need to stay as far away from drugs as possible. But as long as you're sober and you remain sober and you're able to make correct decisions because of that, then you have everything inside of you to be a successful person. In fact, you possess all the character traits of a good, enlightened, virtuous, clear-minded person, but you just have to stay away from the things that create addiction inside of you, because then you get corrupted from inside. And you need to be able to value things appropriately. And so the first thing is to make sure you're valuing the things that are inside of you with the utmost importance. And you need to put 100% of your energy into looking inside of yourself at all times. Don't let anything outside of you affect you. Focus on the things inside of you. Focus on whether or not you're able to control yourself. Are you at risk in any way? Are you a virtuous person? Is your spirit positive? What are your opinions about things? Are they correct? Are your judgments right about things that you're experiencing? You need to think these things through, and you need to have appropriate reasoning and the power of reasoning in order to do that. Reasoning is central to everything in life, and it is the core thing that makes you able to look internally. It's the only faculty that's able to examine itself. Because you can hear, you can listen, you can speak and communicate, you can see things, but your eyes can't see themselves, and you can't hear your own listening, but you can actually reason about your reasoning. And if you're reasoning about your reasoning and thinking to yourself, am I thinking clearly right now, or am I being pulled by my addiction, or am I being persuaded by other people? That's you using your reasoning to think about your reasoning. It's an incredible power that we have as humans. Only humans can do this. Animals can't reason. Animals just live off impulses. And you can't be like an animal. You have to reason and not just live off your impulses. When someone says, yo, hit this, your impulse can't be like, okay, you just grab it like a robot. You need to think ahead of time. Hold on, this guy might offer me a hit of his joint. If you're at a concert or something, you got to prepare yourself. Well, what am I going to do if that happens? Your mind is able to think ahead and prepare for events that might happen down the line and decide how it's going to handle those things. And you need a reason to be able to do that. And the point is, you need to focus entirely inside yourself. Focus all your attention inwards. Now, I'm not saying that you need to ignore the people that are around you, or ignore the things that are happening around you. No, you gotta, have a good time in life and treat people well and speak to people, but your first priority should always be about what's happening inside of you. Okay, because if you start focusing on the things around you, oh wow, look at those clothes that person's wearing. Or, wow, isn't that guy so handsome? I wish I looked like that. Now you're focusing on externalities, you're forgetting about what's inside of you, and you're going to slip. When someone suddenly offers you a drink and you're focused on the people around you, you're not going to think about, how am I handling this situation right now? And you're going to grab that drink. So by focusing internally, you're providing yourself the greatest protection against relapse of all. And that's why Stoicism is so important for addiction, because Stoicism provides you the tools that are required, not just for being a happy person and finding serenity and peace no matter what happens around you, but it protects you against relapse, and it helps you realize how important it is to be sober. And since drugs affect you internally, and that basically makes them the worst thing for you, you need to always take priority of focusing inside yourself and realizing the last thing I should ever do is drink or use drugs or fulfill other addictive behaviors like gambling or other things that are addictive, that are behaviors, okay? Because people can become addicted to anything. It's not just drugs, but it's behaviors as well. So always focus on that. It is the greatest thing in life to optimize ourselves over time and make us more aligned with the potential that we can be as a human being. Okay? The human potential. And to align ourselves with the perfect human nature. Optimizing ourselves over time is one of the greatest things possible. The only thing greater than that is enduring through the struggles that the universe presents to us. Don't think of struggle as a bad thing. Those things that are external to you, don't let them affect you, okay? Only focus on what's inside of you. And if you see the struggles of life as an opportunity to improve yourself, then like a stone that encounters friction over time, you will be polished into a beautiful human being that achieves anything and actually gains more from the obstacles, is never hit downwards, but is always risen higher from the obstacles and the struggles of life. That's one of the greatest things in life, is enduring through the struggles. It's amazing what the Stoics teach us. Now, I want you to think about the various struggles that you might encounter in life. And as an addict, one of those struggles is being under peer pressure, for example, or being in situations where you might be forced to relapse, or at least pressured into relapsing. Don't ever let that happen. You need to prepare yourself for when that happens. Now, if you're focused internally, and let's say you're at a party and you're focused internally the whole time, that provides you like a protective wall around your mind where you don't let the external things affect you inside. Nothing external is going to affect you. And if you don't have that wall built up by looking internally and changing your opinions into ones that move you away from anything that could lead you to addiction and lead you back to relapse, and valuing the things that protect your sobriety, if you don't change your opinions that way, you won't have a wall. The enemy can just come back in. It can enter the city freely. And the enemy is drugs and alcohol for you in this situation. Okay? But if you develop strong enough opinions over time through reasoning and thinking about your judgments and how you're wrong in your opinions about certain people in your life or places, things that could trigger you, then you're not going to have that wall to protect you. But if you have that wall protecting you and you're focused internally, constantly in those situations, then nothing's going to stop you from staying sober, okay? I've developed these walls over years. I've been studying Stoicism for 7 years now, even more than that. I'm about 11 years deep since I first started really studying Marcus Aurelius's meditations. And for about 7 years, I've been really digging deep into Stoicism. Ever since ever since my addiction and I got sober and I managed to get through it with Stoicism. I wanted to teach people so they could also use it the way I did to get sober. And so I've been studying Stoicism for 7 years, and now I'm teaching it to you in a distilled way so that you can learn it far quicker than I did. I'm handing this treasure of knowledge to you through these videos, and you're going to be able to learn it much quicker. Through those years of me learning this stuff, I've developed the walls now. Nothing's going to make me relapse. I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, I was over at somebody's house. I never met this guy before. And I was with some people. Everybody was drinking. And the guy whose house it was, he was some burly Romanian guy named Dragos. Big alpha male type of a guy. Liked to party a lot. I get along with everybody. I don't really, it doesn't bother me if somebody uses, because I know that I'm protected. I'm now in a safety situation where I've developed enough protection internally to never fear that I'm going to relapse around people that are using. So I wanted to get to know this guy, and I went out back where he was grilling some food, some meat, and he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, where's your beer?" And I said, "I don't drink." And he looks at me dead in my eyes and he goes, "In this house, you got to drink, because if you're not partying, you got to leave." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, then I guess I got to go, because I don't drink. So nice to know you." And he immediately folded. He realized there was nothing that was going to break me. I wasn't going to drink. It might make him feel a little awkward that he's getting drunk in front of me and acting like a fool, and I'm not going to join in on those shenanigans. But he knew that nothing was going to break me, and I was definitely not going to drink. In fact, it was a cold night that night, and I would have rather gone out with no ride and left his house with nowhere to go than take one sip of beer. Nothing would make me drink anything there or do anything else. And he looked at me and he was like, "All right, man, well, I guess grab a soda from the fridge. I think I got some Diet Cokes in the back." And then my eyes lit up. Oh, sweet, Diet Coke, that's my favorite. The point is, don't ever let anything break you, but it takes time And you need to develop the systems internally by focusing inwards to not let yourself relapse when people pressure you, because that might happen to you. In fact, almost 100% that's going to happen to you. You're going to go to weddings, you're going to go to funerals where people are taking shots to, douse their grief. Don't let those situations pressure you. Be prepared ahead of time, learn Stoicism, and you'll be protected. In fact, over time, you can use situations like that as an exercise to say no to people. When you go to the bar, you can look ahead of time and see that as an opportunity and say to yourself, when the bartender comes up to me, I'm going to say, I want a unsweetened iced tea. And that's going to be my moment of pride. I'm going to be proud of doing that. Because in the past, I would have said, yeah, give me a Jaeger bomb or some other ludicrous drink. I mean, it just sounds ridiculous even saying that. Use those opportunities to practice your ability to say no. But if you're not ready to do that, if you're early in sobriety, don't do that. Don't risk it, okay? You need to look ahead of time and look for situations where you're going to likely lose, okay? You're going to likely lose those situations if you're still early in your addiction and your sobriety, I should say. So stay away from those situations. But once you start studying Stoicism and the principles that I'm teaching you through the Marble program, over time you'll be able to be protected and you'll actually be able to use those situations as like training. Because it no longer becomes a situation where you're afraid that your addiction is going to pull you in, but it's almost like you're afraid that it's going to be awkward. And if you're going to relapse because you're afraid it's going to make the situation awkward, then I just feel sorry for you. Do not even put yourself in those situations. Don't you dare. I want you to be in a place in your life where no matter what happens to you, even if you're thrown into a prison cell, you can say to that person, take everything, take all the things that you want, but you won't be able to take the things that I desire from me. And you won't be able to cause the things that I'm afraid of to happen to me. Because the only things you desire or you fear and you turn away from are the things that are inside of you, and no one can take that away from you. It's like pledging a fraternity. They try to break you. They want to get into your head. That can't happen if you're a Stoic person and you know that the only things that you actually care about are inside of you. They can say, we're going to strip you naked and stick you outside in the snow. And you're going to be like, that's fine, because I don't care about that stuff. I only care about what's inside of me. And I care about me being able to endure that. Even if it means that I'm going to freeze to death, I'm going to prove to you that you can't take anything from me that I want. And then, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but that's going to be the greatest struggle ever. It's a little masochistic to say, but don't take it to extremes, okay? I'm using extremes as an example here, but the point is, there have actually been, in real life, in history, times when people have been tortured, and instead of telling the people that are torturing them the things they want to hear, the person being tortured will smile at them the more pain they feel. That's not a fake story. These things have actually happened because those people have their internal mind so well structured and so strong that even the most severe pain can't stop them from getting what they want, which is only what's inside of them, and smiling back at their torturer. And we know that this stuff can actually happen because hypnosis is a real thing. Now, that's a way that someone external to you, if you let them, can affect you internally through the subconscious mind. But there have been proven case studies of people getting abdominal surgery and totally cut open and having their intestines out, being worked on, and they don't feel pain because of hypnosis. So the human mind is an extremely powerful thing. And I'm not saying let anybody hypnotize you or nothing like that. I'm saying we need to train ourselves to be equally as strong internally and protected from addiction, okay? Now let's turn our attention to external things. Most of the things that people value in life are external things. And most of those external things we should be indifferent to, meaning we don't care about those things, okay? That includes things like our health or financial security or our reputation with other people. Those things are external to us, and most people want those things, but really we should be indifferent to them because those things are neither good nor bad, and I've talked about this before. What's good or bad is how we make use of those things. And since those things are outside of our control, we don't possess those things. We have no ownership over those things. Now, we can guide those things in life the way that a sailor would guide a sailboat. We can change the position of the mast and of the sails to make the boat move in a certain direction. But that sailor has no control over which direction the wind is blowing, or if a sudden thunderstorm comes in. And the same is true of all external things in life for us. We can guide them in a certain direction, but we have no control over those things, the way that we have control over what's inside of us. So we should be indifferent to them, and we shouldn't become too attached to those things. If we did become attached to them, it would be like a soccer player getting overly attached to the soccer ball that he's playing with. The point of the game in soccer is to play the game skillfully. And the point of the game of life is to play the game of life skillfully. And getting attached to things that are outside of you, that are outside your control, that's like the soccer player crying about the ball, him not having the ball anymore. Okay, he's losing the big picture here. The big picture is to play the game skillfully, and you have to play the game of life skillfully. If you get attached to things, then you're failing at that game. It's like, you're focusing on the wrong things in life. It's about how you make use of things, okay? The things that are external to you, they don't even affect you internally if you don't let them. Nothing can affect you internally. That guy at that party I was at, he didn't affect me. He tried to affect me by being all alpha on me. You got to drink or you got to leave, buddy. But I was totally unaffected because the only things that affect me are my mind and what's inside of me. Now, when it comes to the types of things that are external to us, there are 4 types. The first, let's start with our body. Our body is actually external to our mind. It counts as an externality. You can guide it like the sailboat by eating healthy and by exercising. Those are the main things. That's 90% of the work. 10% of it's probably taking the medications that you're supposed to be on if you're on any medications. But for the most part, it's eating healthy, calorie-restricted diet, and exercising. But you can't help it if all of a sudden you have a heart attack anyway. That's outside your control. Or if you twist your ankle out of the blue while you're running, you can't really control that. You can try to, tie your shoes up better, but these things are outside your power. So the body is external to you and it's outside your control. It's neither good nor bad in the long run. The second thing are external material things, the things that make up the universe. That includes your TV, that includes the camera I'm looking at right now, that includes my phone, your phone, all the things that we possess and all the things that make up the universe, the trees behind me, etc. The third thing that makes up the 4 categories of external things are people. People can put pressure on us. They can affect us in good ways or bad ways if we let them, but ultimately they're external to us. Don't get too attached to them, and we'll go into that in a little bit. And the 4th thing is drugs and alcohol and the things that we get addicted to and the things that lead us to our addictions. And that's the worst category of things because, as I mentioned, they affect us internally. Once we use them, we're kind of screwed because we got to work our way out of that situation and work our way out of them affecting us anymore from the inside, because that's just a biological thing. Now, you need to detach yourself from all the different things. And you can start by asking yourself, is this thing that I'm desiring right now, is it internal to me or is it external to me? And then actually say that to yourself. And if the answer is it's external to me, then throw it out. Okay? Don't attach yourself to that thing. And the same thing goes with people in your life. Even your family, you need to think to yourself, are they external to me? And then say to yourself, yeah, they're external to me. And then detach yourself from them. You need to fulfill your responsibilities to your family. Don't get me wrong. And you should love your family. But you can't become so attached to them that you fall apart and your peace of mind is tied to them being around constantly. Okay? Then you're going to be too at risk of relapse if anything happens to them. Because it's easy to stay sober when things are going well, but what happens if your family gets hit by a car? Is that your excuse now to go back to drugs? It better not be. I'm training you to be able to get through anything in life and stay sober through it. Because eventually, on a long enough time span, you're going to go through some shit. And I cannot let you relapse during those times. Definitely not. Now, let me talk a little bit about detaching yourself from your family, because I know it sounds stone cold saying that. I have a significant other, and sometimes she likes to watch these videos. And whenever I say anything that she thinks it's related to me and her or our life, it can affect her. And so you can imagine if she hears me saying something like detach yourself from your family because they're external to you, that's going to affect her. Hopefully it doesn't, because hopefully she's stoic enough to know that that's not going to, not to let that affect her. And only what's inside of her can truly hurt her. But any normal human being that's not deep into Stoicism is going to feel a certain way about that. But here's the thing about detaching yourself from family. In our lives, when our family's around all the time, let's face it, we can take them for granted. And the love that we experience for them can come and go sometimes. And it's only later when the family gets taken from you by the universe. Let's say you go through a divorce or something happens to them, maybe with their health. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I loved them so much. But maybe during that long marriage you had, you guys were bickering at each other the whole time. And that love truly wasn't there. But now that they're gone, it's there. By detaching yourself from your family internally, it sort of makes you realize how much you love them, actually, and how important they are to you, and your roles to your family, because you have purposes to your family, a purpose to serve to your family. There's an entire section in the Marble program that we'll get to in the future about your purpose towards your family. And it's so important. And if you take it for granted, by detaching yourself with these exercises, you'll realize, oh man, I actually love them so much, it's hard for me to detach myself from them. And by doing this exercise, it can actually improve and intensify your love and your dedication to them. Because if you think internally, you can think to yourself, am I fulfilling my responsibilities to my loved ones well enough? Am I there for them? Am I showing my love to them the way that I truly love them? Am I expressing that love and showing them how much I love them? These are all internal thoughts you're saying to yourself by pulling yourself away and saying to yourself, well, they are external to me too, and anything could happen to them, and I can't become so attached to them that if something were to happen to them, I'm going to relapse or I'm going to do something else stupid. Okay? That's the way that you detach yourself in a healthy way, because you have to fulfill all your responsibilities to your family, and you need to love them. So don't take it too strong. Now, here's another exercise that I want you to do about, for things. If you're having trouble detaching yourself from the material objects in your life, like for me, I love my car. I do the marble meetings in my car. And I know it's external to me, but it's my favorite toy. And I use it to the best of my ability for positive good. That's why I do marble meetings in the car. I try to do it as often as I can, a few times a week. I drive in my car and I record myself speaking to the camera while the car is riding on the road, and I'm using it to teach Stoicism. So you can use things that are external to you in positive ways. But let's face it, I like my car. But the thing is, I like my car when I view it as my car. And what I recommend for you to do is take things that you desire and that you have too strong of attachments to, and break them down into smaller parts. So for me, my car, if I break it down, it's a battery. There's a big battery in it. And I got to charge that battery. And I don't have charging at my house. So I got to charge it at stations, and that costs me money. And there's tires that are made out of rubber, and that rubber, it wears down over time. And so I got to get the tires replaced, and the tires cost me money. And the paint on the outside, it gets bugs on the front of it. And then I got to take it to the car wash, and that costs me more money, and it costs me time to go to the car wash. And the bug guts, they don't come off in the car wash because they're like cement hardened onto there. So I got to go out there and clean my car all the time, because every time I take a long trip, I get like a layer of mosquitoes and moths and grasshoppers all over the front of my car. It's disgusting. And if you break things down that are external to you like this, you realize that these things are kind of more of a pain in the ass than they really are. Than you make them out to be. Then you think they're great, but they're kind of a pain in the butt. That's what I'm saying. You could do the same thing about, let's say, a house you desire. You're driving through a rich neighborhood, and that rich areas, let me tell you something, rich areas are places where you need to be very careful, because it's so easy for you to start looking at externalities and valuing those things and desiring those things. Be extra careful in rich neighborhoods where there's mansions and beautiful cars parked out front, or if you travel to rich areas like Monaco or Beverly Hills and Miami and South Beach, those kinds of places. That's the time when you're going to be like, oh man, my life kind of sucks compared to this stuff. Don't ever think that. Sometimes living a simple life is way better than living a rich, complicated one. In fact, most of the time, that's the truth. But let's say you're in a neighborhood and that those desires are coming towards you. They're starting to affect you. You're starting to think, man, I wish I kind of had a house like this. Look at that house and just break it down into its smaller parts. Think to yourself, well, those windows, they're made out of glass, and that glass is going to need cleaning. And that yard, there's all these nice bushes there. That's going to need some landscaping, and the grass is going to need cutting, and I'm going to have to hire somebody for that. And that roof, that's going to need replacing, and that's going to cost who knows how much. And the driveway, it's going to get cracks in it. And look at all the different parts of it inside the house. The walls, the floors, the ceilings. The light bulbs are going to be going out. There's going to be rooms that are never used. There's going to be dust accumulating in them. You're going to have someone clean those rooms even though you're never going into them. The walls are going to get scuffed. How much does it cost to paint a house that big? Many thousands of dollars. The floors are going to get scratched up. How can you replace a floor? I mean, in a house that big, who knows how much that's going to cost? The whole thing becomes a massive headache if you really think about it. You should think about all the external things you desire in that way. Break them down into the smaller parts. Break them down into the materials they're built out of, and think about how those things wear away. And you can do the same thing with people too. Think about how people are going to age over time, how their looks are going to change, how their attitudes might change, their beliefs can change over time. and think about these people, how they're going to change over time, okay? In this way, you're going to sort of break your attachment to things, which is an important exercise for you to do. Because if you're attached to things too much, and if you desire things that are external to you, you become a slave to those things, just like you do when you desire drugs, and you'll do anything to get a hit. If you think that wealth is the most important thing, then you're going to do whatever it takes to gain wealth, and you're going to be a slave to gaining wealth and money. And that's true of all external things. And the people who can give you the things that you want that are external to you, you'll be a slave to them too. If they want to manipulate you by giving you the things you desire or by protecting you from things that are external to you that you don't want to happen, they can do whatever they want. They can tell you to pay them or to do certain things. Basically, you start to become a slave to those people too. But if you free yourself of all desire of the things that are external to you and you only want what's inside of you, you will be a slave to nobody. You will be able to have peace at all times because everything you want, you'll have. No one will be able to take it from you. In a way, you'll be rich. You'll be richer than the person who is the second richest person in the world and is jealous of the person that's the first richest. Because you'll have what you want and they won't have what they want. But I want you to start looking internally into yourself to become someone that's that powerfully strong inside. And I want you to start thinking like this. Start thinking to yourself, how do I stop believing things that are not actually true? And how do I start believing things that are true? And how do I stop desiring things that are external to me? Is this thing that I'm afraid of happening, is it external to me? Those kinds of thoughts are matters of your own judgment. And they're a sign that you're becoming a stronger person and that you're progressing in Stoicism. And I need you to start thinking internally like that in these matters of judgment. Think to yourself, for example, what you're worrying about. Because let's say you're worrying about something external. Instead of worrying about something external, I want you to worry about the fact that you're worrying about that thing. And instead of desiring things that are external to you, I want you to desire that you don't desire those things that are external to you. Okay? Flip everything around. Instead of being afraid and having anxiety about something that might happen that's external to you, I want you to have anxiety about the fact that you're having anxiety about that thing happening. That's how I want you to start thinking, okay? It's extremely important. The same is true about withdrawal. If you're afraid that you're going to go into withdrawal and you're still currently in an addiction and you're watching this right now and you're addicted to something and you're afraid of going into withdrawal, I want you to be afraid that you're going to be afraid about withdrawing. Because the process of withdrawing, it's an actually good process. Remember, nothing can really hurt you except the judgment about something. And if your judgment about withdrawal is that withdrawal is bad and it's a hurtful thing for you and it's bad for you and it's going to be terrible, then yeah, that judgment is actually what's hurting you. But if you look at withdrawal as an opportunity to go through a struggle that's going to build inner strength inside yourself, and as you go through it, you'll be closer and closer to coming out of the other side. Therefore, it's good to go through withdrawal. Then suddenly the act of withdrawing can become a good thing. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a struggle, but I want you to want to withdraw, and I want you to withdraw hard. Now, having said that, if you're addicted to benzos and alcohol, you got to do that in a hospital. I want you to withdraw hard under the guidance of a physician. And remember, while I'm on this subject, anything I'm telling you here, even though I'm a doctor who's licensed and I see patients for their medical problems and treat them, the things that are on these videos, treat it like life coaching, okay? I don't need Morgan and Morgan calling me about, me telling somebody the wrong thing on here. Hey, go withdraw, and then somebody withdraws too hard and dies from delirium tremens, okay? I don't need that. I've had enough legal problems as it is. Everything I'm telling you here, not medical advice, only life coaching, etc., okay? But I want you to see the struggles of withdrawal as a positive thing, because eventually I'll meet you on the other side of that withdrawal, okay? That is how you should view things in life. View things in a way where you think about them, well, how do they affect my growth in my virtue? Look at the things you possess or the things that you interact with that are materialistic, and think to yourself, does this thing help me become a more virtuous person? Does it improve my courage in life? Does it make me stronger internally? Does it provide me some kind of wisdom? Does it allow me to practice in some way to strengthen certain skills I have? How does this affect my virtue? Or does it instead affect me negatively and cause me to have more vices? Does it cause me to be less of an honest person? Or does it cause me to be more lazy? How does it affect my lifestyle? Look at everything in this way. How does it affect your virtue? The same with people. Look at people. Does this person strengthen my ability to stay sober? Or does this person cause me to be more likely to relapse? How do they affect me emotionally? And how am I letting them affect me emotionally? Think about that too, because in the end, you are only affecting yourself through your judgments about things. You can view all hardships and obstacles as a way to improve yourself and strengthen yourself. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And what doesn't hurt you on the inside doesn't hurt you, and it doesn't make your life bad. Even if you have no money and poor health and you're in chronic pain, that doesn't mean your life has to be bad. Okay? In the grand scheme of things, those things shape who you become over time. So help yourself by becoming a better person through the hardships of life. You have to use things in a way to do that. Because while external things are indifferent to you, and you should really you shouldn't desire them and you shouldn't be afraid of them, you should really not care about them. But how you use those things is a matter of good or bad. You can handle things in a bad way, or you can handle them in a good way. And you can use things in bad ways and you can use things in good ways. So always look at life in a way where you're trying to take advantage of the things that you're encountering. Life is like a river flowing by you, and there's all sorts of things in that river. And how you use those things, that matters. So use everything in a positive way to strengthen your sobriety, get you away from risking a relapse, and build yourself up over time so you become a strong person that can succeed in anything in life. Stay tuned. Next week, I'll have another great video for you. Check out my marble meetings. I try to do them as often as I can. And if you like this, please show me you like it somehow. Comment or whatever. I love you all. Have a great day. See ya.